Every character has 88 health. Both those moves do 8 damage. There are different units of stun, however. This character has the least amount of stun in the game, and he gets stunned from a projectile and a throw. This character is more in line with the rest of the cast. A lot of people, when they try to go for their stun punishes, end up hitting early when the character hasn't put their head back on yet. There's a point where you have to wait for their character to put the head back on before you can hit them. Then they're completely vulnerable, but they can mash out pretty early after that. Moves also do chip in this game. All the special moves, in fact. Each character has 4 specials, and throws count as a special, so not every character has a throw. Go figure. Most of them do, though. And there are also no corners in this game. The way that hitboxes act in this game are kind of weird. Once you get hit by an attack or block it, then the hitbox goes away for the rest of the animation. And yes, there's animations in this game, which means that the hitboxes are tied directly to the individual limbs and not actual hitboxes. Hitboxes don't go away if the move has a rapid flag, like with Guyan's Hammerhead, or the attacks that you mash. Shenlong's spin move doesn't have the rapid flag, which means it's very punishable on block by pretty much any move you want. Now let's talk about throws. Throws in this game are frustrating, to say the least. They beat out buttons on the ground, so sometimes you'll be able to throw somebody even though their foot is hitting you, or so you would think. They are frame 1, so they can be used as a reversal, and they are pretty much the universal reversal in this game. There's not many other than that. Frustratingly, they also beat jumps for some reason. Not even invincible reversals are safe. Here the opponent's mashing their invincible reversal, but they still get thrown. Fortunately, most of the instances where this would create game-breaking issues have been banned in competitive play, such as with the character Y here. But, I mean, you can still throw jumps and reversals. It's frame perfect, though. A few sample combos that you can use if you want to see what combos actually look like in this game. Blocking is done with down, so that means these combos are pretty much as tight as they can be. The only thing that they can break out of the combo with is a throw, but sometimes it's not really an option, such as with Leo's knee attack here. If you block it, it sends you into another knockdown. It's also important to note that cross-ups in this game are a big part of the combos, since you can only block in one direction. Garborg's best anti-air is done with half circle forward and A plus B, but you can keep the input for a little bit before you do the button input, which basically allows you to store the inputs so you can use the special move when you want. This doesn't work for charge moves. If you've ever watched AMF, something you won't notice people doing is canceling moves very often. It's because you can't cancel normals into specials, but you can cancel some specials into other specials, but this is extremely rare. There's only a couple characters in the roster that have this. They can be cancelled on hit or whiff as well. I want to return to throws for a second to talk about throw teching. You can't tech throws in the normal sense like you would in Super Turbo or Third Strike, but there is a way to minimize the effect of throws in this game. Otherwise they'd run the metagame. If you rapidly hit back and forward as you're in block stun, then you're able to quote-unquote tech a throw. Like there. Here it is in slow motion. If you don't press any directions during block stun, you just get thrown as normal. This is critical for punishing jump-ins and assure a throw loop, so make sure you pick this up early. Now for reversals. Reversals in this game aren't really too common, as you saw earlier. The only ones are pretty much just I, Shenlong, and Garborg's. Fully invincible, but you can still meaty throw them if you're frame perfect. At the very least, it's a surefire way to escape all cross-ups, even airborne ones, which are inescapable for all their characters. Of course, every character can reversal throw, which usually does merit better rewards than just using a reversal. It depends on the character. This is Garborg again. He's very useful as a test subject because he has a lot of intricacies to him. For example, this is his normal jump. Pretty average, pretty standard. Garborg doesn't have an air game, which means that he has to use something different. That's a short hop. Short hops in this game are done by pressing down and then diagonally up right or up left. You can't short hop in place. Specifically, you have to be pressing any down direction for one frame and then pressing up left or up right the next frame, which makes it frame perfect and not very much seen in competitive play, at least currently. For characters like Garborg or Giganto or Shenlong, this is pretty useful for them because they really need to utilize the time they're spent on the ground and not really so much in the air. As you can see, short hops happen because the character is put a little bit into the ground before they jump, causing their jump to appear lower than it normally is. You can't be crouching and then go into a short hop because crouching requires you holding the direction, but you need to press a down direction and not hold it, which makes it harder than it would otherwise be. Here's an example of how you could use it using one of my favorite characters in this whole game. In short, the best characters in this game are the ones that do well in neutral and have good damaging punishes that they can rely upon. Characters like Blaze have good normals, good specials, and a lot of knockdowns off of moves. Generally, the best characters also have a projectile, a good way of approaching, and a fast-ish walk speed. It's okay if your walk speed's kinda trash as long as you have a good way of getting in. For characters like Giganto, this doesn't really happen for them since their walk speed is pretty much the only way of them getting around. If you don't have a fast walk speed in this game, or a projectile or anything that allows you to get in quickly, then you're pretty much screwed and you're not going to have any chance of becoming a good character. That being said, there's a whole lot of characters that aren't too bad in this game, and a lot more characters and viable characters at that you would not consider for a game that's this old. Your main way of going about neutral is getting pokes while trying to get in, or keep your opponent out depending on what kind of character you are. For Y, it could be either, since you have a really good poke, you have one of the best buttons in the whole game, and you have a throw loop that can get you a couple of good hits in. A lot of the best characters in the game can be played either offensively or defensively, and you can switch it up at will. Whatever kind of playstyle that you like in this game, you'll probably find a character that suits your fit, and a good character at that. Here's the relative tier placing of every character in the game. I don't think many people would disagree the individual tiers, but they're unordered to save the arguments from happening. If you ask most people in the community, I think they'd say solid and upwards is what you should be looking for if you want a character you're going to play. Of course, you can feel free to play whatever character you want. In fact, I play Giganto, who's at the start of the yellow tier, but the better characters and the ones that usually win tournaments are in the tiers that are above that. Within the individual tiers, there's a wide variety of playstyles and characters that you can play, so nothing feels stale most of the time unless you're playing a clone character, which I normally wouldn't rank next to each other, but for the sake of this, and since there would be new players who are looking at this video, I decided to put all the characters in here. If you join the Discord in the description, you'll find people there who are willing to help you with finding your main, and what you should be doing for your optimal punishes and things like that. If you're not sold on the idea of this game being a competitive game, which I get it's an NES game that was only released in Japan, I'd urge you to watch the videos and the VODs that I have on my YouTube channel of the tournaments that I've ran. If you think this game appeals to you, then feel free to join the Discord found below. If you try to imagine a Famicom fighting game, you'll probably think of one that doesn't have very many options in character diversity or playstyle differences. This game supplies that in droves. With about 36 characters and multiple different playstyles, you're able to put together a pretty unique game plan for yourself. Even if you just want to have fun and switch characters a bunch of times, that's cool too. You know, I could argue this game had the best roster for its time. The one thing this game kind of is missing is universal mechanics though. Despite this game looking pretty neutral heavy at first glance, you'd be surprised as to how many characters actually want to get up close and scrap. In fact, for some characters, throws can be the life of their game plan. such as with Gaian, Y, or Ashura. 3 of the best characters in the game are known not because their ability to camp out the other person, but because their ability to do damage when they get in. It's especially helped that not very many characters have projectiles in this game. There's only a few good ones that do. And the characters that don't have projectiles usually have a decent way of getting around them or dealing with them. But even if they don't, there's always other matchups that they can be used. For example, Shenlong is usually considered a mid-tier by most people, but as an Ashura player, I would argue that he actually could win the matchup. Ashura is the blue character in the very strong tier. You have a mid-tier that could be a debatedly top 3 character in the 1v1. On top of that, there's very few polarizing matchups. Within the top 7, there's maybe one matchup that's worse than 6-4. Anyway, on to the all-important playstyle diversity that you're so wishing to see in this game. Like I said, the roster's pretty diverse in this game. You have all kinds of characters and different archetypes. Overall, I'd say this game leads more towards offense than defense, so you're not going to get camped out too much. In this game, the rushdown tends to be very rushdown, but the zoning tends to be a little bit less focused on zoning. For a good amount of the zoning characters, you can play them as rushdown, but you just have to be a little more careful. Just note that this would be a rough guess of characters if I had to place them in tiers like this. Once again, the tiers are unordered. In the other category, you have Nay, the green character, and Hover, the white character. The reason that they're in the other category is because I couldn't really determine where I should place them. Nay's general game plan is getting a projectile out as soon as you can and keeping it there for the rest of the game. Since Nay's projectile travels so slowly, you can walk behind it to set up pressure. And since projectiles don't clank in this game, you can't really get around it unless you have a projectile of your own. Of course, you have to use that projectile to stuff out Nay's approaches. Nay can be played either offensively or defensively, but most characters when they play against Nay are too scared to jump in or try to assert any pressure when there's a projectile on screen. Hover's the other character I really wanted to talk on. Hover's game plan is pretty much getting as much chip as possible with your safe offense. Since Hover's main ways of getting in can only be used at full screen, you're probably going to get camped by this character every now and then. And Hover has a character-specific infinite, so it's pretty important for Hover to get in, but most of the time they're just trying to get chip. Hover is definitely the best character without a throw, since they make up for not having a throw with having a lot of quick moves that lead into a lot, and there's safe moves on block that you can use. Hover also is kind of weird because sometimes it can high profile over certain moves, such as Shenlong's spin attack and probably a lot of other low buttons. I should mention that both of these characters have lower stun than average, so that's something you can take into consideration if you want to play Nay or Hover. Another thing that you might think if this game is super neutral heavy is that the grapplers of this game wouldn't be very good. However, some of the best characters in the game have been known because of their throws, and you can probably find gameplay for most of these characters if you're looking to see what they do. Just check out the VODs on my channel. When I first had the idea for making a beginner's guide for Joy Mech Fight, I didn't expect it to be this long. I haven't really made a guide type video, so this is my first attempt at doing something like that. If it was good, drop me a like and drop a comment. If you want to see more of this game, I can probably do a few character guides. In fact, I think I might make a character guide for my main Ashura anyway, since it wasn't too long ago that people speculated that Ashura would be the best in the game. Another thing is that if I make a character guide, it's not going to be a character from Solid or below, since Very Strong is the tier that most people pick a main from. One of the final things I'll say about this game is that I wouldn't shill it if I didn't think it wasn't fun. I've hosted 6 tournaments for this game, and I hope more will come in the future, as a result from more people picking up the game. I hope this video helped a little bit in uncovering what's different about Joy Mech Fight. And like I said, if you want to join the Discord, there's always people in there that are willing to help you. Anyway, I'll keep this ending short, and I want to say thanks to anyone watching to the end of the video. Feel free to ask me for games on Fightcade or in the Discord, because I'll be in there, and probably won't be busy. Anyway, thanks for watching.